Welcome everybody. Good morning. Again, we have a small group here to start, even though we had an extra hour, but I'm sure more will be arriving. So it must be it. So, any case, it's wonderful to be here with you this morning, and we're very fortunate to have Jai Jagannath Prabhu speaking. It's again, we just always like to stress. Let's make this an extra special effort. Think of this as a very important sacrifice and some of the most essential hour and a half that we'll be spending this week, that we kind of leave behind the world that we just have come from and the world that we'll be going into, and for just this time being really together, try to really concentrate and hear the message of the Bhagavatam. And we encourage everyone to participate and get into it. Of course, that would also include turning the phones off or on airplane mode. And anything else? I think that's about it for now. Let's just get into it. Jai Jagannath. And we'll chant. We've shortened up the Mangala Charana that we're doing a bit, just to get to these real essential progression of the verses about hearing from the second chapter of the first canto. So let us begin. Vasudeva Kataruchi Syanmahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shrinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantas Toya Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages when they are virtuous, when properly heard and chanted. Nasta prayishva badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Tadarajas tamo bhava kamalobhadayaschaye cheta eter anavidham stitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effect of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. Evam prasana manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva sangshayaha kshiyante chasya karmani drista evatmani ishvare. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruit of actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Jai.
Ooh. Okay. Seems really loud. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunu Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasvati Vyasam Toto Jayanti Rayat. Hare Krishna. So we're going to be covering the 6th canto, chapter 2, verses number 7 through 19, because those verses were not covered last week. It's the section that deals with the holy name of Krishna, so it's kind of like the focus of the pastime. And last week's discussion, there was one lady here who apparently felt somewhat discouraged by the presentation. Not the presentation, but the topic of repentance, and she was taking it somewhat negatively, and she even voiced her discouragement openly in the class, and then shortly thereafter she vanished. I didn't see her. And we were hearing last week the contrast between religious principles under the 3 modes of nature and transcendental religious principles or devotion. As Krishna says in the Gita, what is that? Nashtraya gunya bhavarjuna. Try Veda Vishaya. Try gunya Vishaya Veda, Nashtraya gunya bhavarjuna. So he tells Arjuna to transcend the religious principles based on the gunas of nature and to basically take up Vedanta or devotional service. So we were hearing about that contrast, and the religion under the modes of material nature is indeed very discouraging. There's no doubt about it. I think for this reason, perhaps people today are very fond of saying, I am spiritual but not religious, because religion under the modes of nature is ultimately discouraging. And perhaps one of the reasons for that, I don't know about her particular case, but perhaps one of the reasons for that is that when you have to take an honest consideration of what you are in the right now, then it's not always the most positive inventory if you have to take now. It doesn't look so good. And with religious principles under the gunas of nature, for the negativity that can be found in us, and there's various prescriptions of atonement and austerity that should be performed in order to become freed from that contamination. And so that's what she was finding somewhat discouraging, you know, the whole topic of I've done this wrong and I need to repent. And we'll hear a little bit more about this today also. But it's discouraging if you have to really take a serious inventory of the extent of evil even that's inside. And if I have to repent or do some sort of atonement for all of that is within me, then practically speaking, you see no end to such program. When one has to examine their own heart very honestly and sincerely, it's like looking at maybe at the mountain of Anartas. You know, it's like a Mount Everest of Anartas where you just look up and you don't see the peak. It's just a very high mountain. And if there is some sort of program of purification required for every single evil that's in me or contamination, then indeed it is a very discouraging proposition. You should do like this, you should do like that. It's super discouraging. And who would ultimately feel inspired to continue with such a program? And indeed, she left. Obviously, her understanding was not complete, and she didn't stay to the end, because Vasudev said, we will clarify that. Just hold your horses, but she could not hold her horses. She left, because it was that overwhelming. So I wanted to share one quote in this regard, and bring up another point before we get into the verses. But for this reason, Krishna's mercy is the only reconciling factor. The only inspirational point in devotional service, honestly speaking. And so there's this quote, I'm going to read it to you from one Vaishnava Thakur. I found it very inspiring in this regard, and it sticks to this point. I'm not putting it up here on the screen, you just have to hear. I know that's hard, but everyone, Bhagavad Shravan. So this is a quote here, we, the finite, should approach the infinite with this spirit. Are you ready to hear this spirit? If justice is applied, I have no hope. I omit that department. I have come only to seek my fortune in the department of mercy, where there is no calculation of right or wrong, of merit or demerit. I have come to that department, my Lord, because I do not know what is within me. I do not know what is within me. Just like sometimes, I don't know, I can't say I'm sure you've had this thought, but it's come up to me with me sometimes. For example, when driving, I'm not a very happy driver, and when I get cut off or something like that happens, then I imagine myself sometimes like shooting the vehicle, or I've often imagined myself with having like a snow machine that can like lift the car up and like flip it over. And then after I think like that, I feel very satisfied in heart. I do not know what is within me, you know, this sort of evil mentality, you know. It's like a small thing, someone cuts you off. It's just a very small thing. But somehow this thoughts, you have this experience? Always. Huh? Someone honks. I can shoot you imagine like a sunroof in your car and you just pull up and So this is the fact, although ordinarily I suspect that many of us think we are good persons, more or less, you know. Okay, I've got a little narcissist here and there, but more or less a good person. But then something like this happens and you can think something just incredibly evil. Or sometimes even without being prompted, suppose you're waiting at the train station and you see someone is standing very close to the edge and you may think, what if I pushed them? Yeah, it's like, it just with a little tap, that would be interesting. Like something completely evil and you're not even prompted. It's not that they did anything wrong to you. Rahu. Or this is what this Vaishnava Thakur is telling us. I do not know what is in me. Oftentimes, and this is very much to the passage of the Yamadutas explaining themselves to the Vishnu Dutas. When asked by the Vishnu Dutas, who is liable for punishment? And the Vishnu Dutas said, everyone. Because everyone is under the control of the gunas of nature. And so because of that, sometimes they're performing evil acts, or they're thinking evil deeds, or they're speaking evil things. So everyone is ultimately punishable, so long as they're acting under the gunas of Prakriti. And so even now we may think we're good persons, and we probably are, largely, considering all the factors. We're good, but if we're under the control of nature, what is that? Karanam guna sangasya sarasa yonijamusu. Guna sangha, because we're associating with the gunas. We don't do isha sangha, which the Yamaduta is told, or we're not doing very good sadhu sangha. But this guna sangha we're doing regularly and constantly, non-stop. And for that reason, we meet with good and evil in different species of life, or within our own minds, some evil is coming. So everyone, just as you see that we are capable of good under the gunas of nature, we are equally capable of evil under the gunas of nature. No one is exempt from that, no matter how good they are, minus devotional service. So here this Vaishnava tells us, I have come to that department, my Lord, because I do not know what is within me. When I analyze and study my own heart, I find that I am unknown to my own self. At least occasionally that may happen. I am so helpless and wretched that I don't even know myself. How then should I venture to appeal to a department where something will be granted only after a calculation of my merits and demerits? I don't want that. I don't want any decision based on mercy or on justice. So this brings me to the second point I wanted to bring up in this regard, and the challenge of this pastime, and many pastimes, in fact, in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, is this sort of tension between justice and mercy. So in the material world, justice is a profound preoccupation of the living entity. They're always looking for justice. Of course, not in their own personal cases, but when seeing and examining other cases, this is the profound preoccupation. In fact, if you study the Gita carefully, you have so many verses where Krishna say, I'm not responsible, because the living entity is always looking for someone to blame and looking for justice. And mercy is that element in Krishna that can, whether you deserve something or not, then it can uplift you to the highest spiritual platform without you even deserving it. And it can also remove any discrepancy because of your past, no matter how evil. Such is the power of mercy. And this often, for conditioned souls, perhaps like ourselves, can be a very problematic thing to digest. Of course, when we're hearing only a third-party story, like the story of Ajamil, it sounds very beautiful. Or if you're hearing like the story of Jagai Madai, then you may be a little charmed by it. But if you think of an example more close to home, then you'll start to kind of maybe appreciate how hard it is to digest the inconceivable nature of Krishna's mercy. If you can think, for example, the case of Jagai Madai. So it is said that there was not one sin they had not committed. So just think about what that means. Is that, like, think about some horrible sin that you know that you would have a hard time digesting if you heard that, like, let's say some devotee had done it or someone had done it. I can think of a few just like that. I don't want to give any examples that are graphic, but you can think of some things that are like, the one example is like burning your house. They were burning people's houses. So you can imagine that. And then Lord Chaitanya delivers them, says, okay, don't do it again. And chant Hare Krishna. And they become, venerable Vaishnavas thereafter. That's a very, like, what?
They were drunk too, right?
That was at least for the problems, but yeah, they were drunk and they had a horrible history. But Krishna's mercy in this case, Sri Chaitanya's mercy, kind of liquidated all of that past and bestowed upon them the greatest boon, because his mercy is all inconceivable and all powerful, and it can, make the impossible possible. Now, when we look at that message in terms of our own specific case, it sounds very beautiful. But when you just remove it a little bit, then you'll see where this tension between justice and mercy comes up. And I think even most devotees today wouldn't even find it problematic. Sometimes they wonder, where's the moral theology in Krishna consciousness? Because, it's just all about the mercy, the mercy. And well, what if someone's doing this activity or that activity, that needs some justice should be applied? So, of course, not getting into the nitty-gritty of those details, which may need to be applied on a practical level. But ultimately, the message is that all of it is more or less forgiven or liquidated just because they chanted one holy name of Krishna. Not even like they're doing 16 rounds. At least there we might feel a little bit. Even Jagai Madai, after they were delivered by Sri Chaitanya, they were chanting 200,000 holy names a day. So it's like, okay, I'm kind of convinced you're a Vaishnava. But if someone comes and, they should be punished for some heavy criminal activity, and they say, well, Hare Krishna, now all is forgiven. Yeah, all is forgiven. You might find it a little bit difficult to digest that. And so you'll find this tension between justice and mercy all throughout the Bhagavatam, of course. But just as a general theological meditation, it's something that I find interesting. And of course, in this pastime of Ajamil, we're hearing a lot about that. Someone who has a heavy background of sinful activity, and he did nothing to atone for it. Even like, I'm sorry, at least can I get a sorry, Sometimes that would also do, like someone's done you wrong. For example, they had the door open and then they slammed it in your face. Then you would expect at least, I'm sorry, right? Like, suppose someone slams the door in your face and they don't say, I'm sorry. Or they hold the door for everyone else, but they close it on you. That one is really, ooh, burning. Isn't it? You have experience? I have experience of this happening. Where you don't even want to think negatively, but you're like, why you close the door on me? Okay, that's all right, but can I get a sorry? And then the worst is they just look at you and do one of those, just carry on. Then while you chant japa, mine is just going. Isn't it? Because you want justice. Where is the justice, isn't it?
Or else they say you have issues.
Then say you have issues. Now, if they give any commentary, then it's going to really, it's really going to be a problem then. So Ajamil is having such heavy background of sin, no atonement, not even a I'm sorry for doing some activity. In fact, no even awareness that he was doing wrong. And he chanted one holy name of the Lord, and all is forgiven, all is liquidated. And over and above that, he gets to see the Vishnu Dutas, and after that, he'll get to go back home back to Godhead. Haribo! Again, when you hear it as a third-party story, it's like, okay, you know, Krishna's merciful. But if you have to think a little bit more closely, then you can see where the tension may come up even in your own heart with this sort of proposition of the Bhagavatam. And indeed, Dharma Projita Kaitava Atra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. Right? There's an Atra in this Bhagavatam, all this cheating religion has been kicked out. And cheating religion is what? That religion, which includes within it, that religion that takes consideration of the merit and demerits in terms of the modes of material nature. That is also part of the world of cheating religion. And only the highest religion is propagated in this Bhagavatam, which is chanting the holy names. You know, bhakti, specifically characterized by chanting the holy names of Krishna. That is the only consideration here. And so you can see it could be a little bit difficult pill to swallow. So let us try to swallow that pill. And here, this passage, this is 6th Canto, Chapter 2. We're gonna read from verses 7 through 19. Maybe you can pull up the page where all the verses are at, just the previous page. So we'll just read the English, and then we'll try to look at each verse one by one, and get into it. I wonder if I had a few other points to make in this regard. Oh yes, before we move on, maybe you can go to that Madhya Lila tab that I have. So what is Krishna's mercy? This is a somewhat of a what do you say, throwback or playback to Kostuba's class a couple of weeks ago. So what is Krishna's mercy? Right? All things are forgiven just by chanting his name, right? So what is his mercy? These verses were brought up 2 weeks ago, very powerful verses. We'll look at verse number, it's down, it's like 96. Well, after 96 even. Yes, 98. This very famous verse. Aho bhakiyam stannakalo kutam. Jigam saya ya tapyasadui. Shall we recite it together? Just to create a mood or something. Aho bhakiyam stannakalo kutam. Jigam saya paya tapyasadui. Lebe gatim da truchitam totonyam. Kamba dayalum sharanam brajema. Who wants to read the translation? Beautiful verse.
Oh, how wonderful.
Oh,
How wonderful it is. Putana, the sister of Bakasura, wanted to kill Krishna by smearing deadly poison on her breasts and having Krishna take it. Nonetheless, Lord Krishna accepted her as his mother, and thus she attained the destination befitting Krishna's mother. Of whom should I take shelter but Krishna, who is most merciful?
And then we'll go back to verse 96, where it's Kampanditas. Who is that learned person that will take shelter of someone else? Are you a learned person? Then you might take shelter of someone else. But who is that learned person who would take shelter of someone else? We can recite together. Kapanditas tvadaparam sharanang samiyad bhakta priya ritagira surida kritaknat sarvan dadati suridho bhajato bikaman atma namapyupachaya pachayo nayasya. Bolo.
My dear Lord, you are very affectionate to your devotees. You are also a truthful and grateful friend. Where is that learned man who would give you up and surrender to someone else? You fulfill all the desires of your devotees, so much so that sometimes you even give yourself to them. Still, you neither increase nor decrease by such activities.
Kapanditas tadaparam sharanam samiyad. So where is that learned person that will take shelter of someone else? Then this merciful Krishna, as I read earlier, I'm only going through the Department of Mercy. This Department of Justice is dangerous for me because I don't know what is in me. So who is that learned person who will go to someone else, take shelter of someone other than you? You are Bhakta Priyarita Gira Surida Kritakna. You are, and the devotee is very dear to you. Atmanapi, you even take that devotee to be your own self. Ritigira, your words are always true, such as the words Konteya Pratijanihi Name Bhakta Panashati, that my devotee will never perish because I'll see to it personally, or I carry what my devotee lacks and preserve what he has. So many wonderful words Krishna offers in the Gita. Ritagira, and your words are always true. We cannot say like that. Even if we want to, we don't have the power. If we say like that, I will carry what you lack. But then I'm broke or something like that. I could not. You cannot do. You cannot make such promises. Of course you can, but you will have to disappoint by nature. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so the absolute truth. Ritagira. Surida, the well-wishing friend, and Kritakna. So remember this word, Kritakna. We're going to come back to it, and of course it is present. Kritakna means grateful, or one who is always aware of what others have done for him. This is the meaning of the word Kritakna. It's a very important word, and it's a word here describing Krishna's quality, that he is grateful, and we're going to come back. It's very much spot on with the topic of the holy name that we're going to be hearing about in just a minute. This Kritakna. He's very grateful, for always aware of what others have done for him. He gives everything to his friends who worship him. All desires are fulfilled. So, Kapana, where is that learned person? Will take shelter of someone else. Are you a learned person? So you will take shelter of someone else? You're a learned person? You're a learned person? You don't know? So, the purpose of Bhagavad Shravan is to invite us to become learned persons. By hearing, you can become learned. What is that verse from Bhagavad Gita? Mahatmanas tu mam partha daivam pakritamashita. Is it there? 9:13 Gita. And Prabhupada says that you become a Mahatma by hearing from a Mahatma. Or in this case, we're discussing the words of a Mahatma. And we hear from these Mahatmas, then we can become Mahatma. If you hear from the learned, that is what Bhagavad Shravan is, then you become learned. By hearing them, then we will take shelter of Supreme Lord and not take shelter of someone else. So this is true of the Supreme Lord. This is also true of his holy name, which is non-different from him. Abhinna Tvam Nama Namina. The holy name is non-different from Krishna. But if there is some difference, Rupa Goswami points out, the two are absolutely non-different from each other. But if there is some difference, I have the verse in one of my, anyway. If there is some difference, the difference is this, that the holy name of the Lord is more merciful than the form of the Lord. Krishna Nama is more merciful than Krishna Swarup. Just like now, how many of you can go on the altar? You have to be second initiated. How many second initiated here? A few only. So, quite a few. But everyone else, you can't go. So, sorry, that's just, rules and everything. But everyone here can chant the holy name of Krishna. So this is a simple example. Krishna's Nam is more merciful than Krishna Swarup. If there is some difference, then Rupa Goswami said, this is the difference. That Krishna Nam is more merciful than Krishna Swarup. Why is that? Another reason. Krishna Swarup, you cannot associate with unless you develop pure prema bhakti. Ultimately, he doesn't usually agree to show his form unless you develop pure prema bhakti. Of course, the deities are there, but you may have different vision of the deity. There are different levels of perception, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes. But to see Krishna in his actual, fully manifest Swarup, then you have to have prema bhakti. So in other words, 3.9.11, I have this tab here. This is one of my favorite verses from the Bhagavatam. Very beautiful verse. We also looked at purport here because it's just so good. We could recite together. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrisaroja ase shrutekshi tapato nanunata pungsam yad yadhiyata urugaya vibhavayanti tatava pranayase saranugrahaya. Someone can read the translation. This is a very nice verse. Oh, yeah. You want to? Oh, you're going to. No, okay.
O my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing.
Bhagavat Shravan. Anyway, that was another point being made here, but.
And thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you.
Yes. Tam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja ase. So the Lord takes his seat in the lotus heart of one who is bhakti yoga paribhavita, which means like completely infused with bhakti yoga. A bhakti yoga infusion. We have bhakti immersion as this bhakti infusion. This means prema bhakti. So how did that prema bhakti develop? That is also a good question. Shruta ikshitapata, by the path of first shruta, hearing. And then after hearing, ikshita means to see. First you hear, and then you see. So you hear from Guru, and then we just recited all those verses in the beginning, right? Shu shu sho shudadanasya, etc. So first you hear, and then you apply. And then by applying, then you see. Right? That means by this hearing, you develop prema bhakti. You develop devotion of this caliber to the Lord. What is that other verse also like this? Stane ta shrutikatam tanuvam manobir ye prayasho ajita jito paishitaish trilokyam. Brahma's prayer, where he says that stop speculating. Gyane prayasam udapasha. This is very hard instruction to follow. Gyane prayasam udapasha is actually only when you stop trying to speculate do you realize how seductive it is and hard to give up. Stop speculating. Namanta eva. Bow your head to jivanti samukaritam bhavadeya vartan. To the samukaritam, those who are always, their faces are always speaking of the bhavadeya vartan, the glories of the Lord. Jivanti, you should make that your life. No need for any other life. Just come to Bhagavat Shravan, eat a little prasadam kirtan bas. This is ideal life. And in the commentary there also, and this verse is coming randomly, but in the commentary there also, sometimes this criticism has come to the devotees that you're parasites, especially when we moved into the ashram, became brahmacharis. We would sometimes meet the students on the street and they would call us parasites and lazy and all sorts of mean names. But there in that purport it describes, it says, even if you can't do anything but somehow or other maintain your existence and hear Bhagavatam, then you're going back home, back to Godhead. And I was like, Hariyo, I may be parasite, but I'm going back home, back to Godhead. I may be parasite, but I'm going back home because Jivanti Samukaritam Bhavadiya Ratan. Because I make my life this hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a very encouraging statement. Of course, don't get overly encouraged and become irresponsible, but it's still nonetheless very, especially as a new brahmachari, and sometimes you wonder, maybe I am, escaping from reality and being irresponsible, and then I wrote that, but I'm going back home, back to Godhead. From this hearing Bhagavatam, stane sita, no need to change your social position. Shuddhikatam tanuvam manobir, but you should dedicate your body, words, and mind to this hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And by doing that, ye prayasa, by that endeavor, those who endeavor in this way, although the Lord is ajita, he becomes jita, he becomes conquered by such a devotee. Sadhyo hridi avarudate atrakriti bishushushubhi takshana. Even for one who desires to hear, what to speak of actually hearing, and one who desires to hear, they're able to capture the Lord in their heart. So that means they develop pure love or prema for Krishna. So then by that prema, yadya ta urugaya vibhavayanti, tatat vapu pranayase saranugrahaya. So they have, yadya means the form of the Lord that they're meditating on. And that prema infused meditation not just our sort of meditation where we kind of actually no one knows what you're meditating on, and oftentimes it must not be very delightful because so much of this is going on. Not a very inspiring meditation. Or sometimes devotees, they keep picture in front of them, and things are very helpful also. So they can try to meditate on the Lord, but sometimes that works for a minute, and then the mind thinks of something ghastly. Have you ever had that experience of chanting japa where you think of something like kind of not so savory, and you kind of feel like, make sure no one saw that? Like, you know, no one can see your mind, but sometimes it's just like such a horrible thing. It's just popped up in the mind. You kind of like, oh, okay. Especially if you ever chatted around saintly persons, where you feel like they can see everything without, you know, many times when some saintly person is there, I like to be far in the back. Because I'm like, no, you're not going to see me. So sometimes you feel that nervousness because the mind is not meditating on the Lord so effectively yet, if we've not become a little bit more accomplished. But here, Diya, this means the Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita Diya, the prema-infused meditation on the Lord. And by that, Tatavapu Pranayarse Saranugrahaya, to show mercy to that devotee, he manifests his Swarup, the Swarup that you meditate upon. So if it's Nishinga Swarup or Krishna Swarup or, you know, Kurma Swarup or whatever, according to, I like this sort of aphorism or maxim, I think I saw it first in Srila Sachinanda Maharaj's book, realization according to meditation. Yanyam vapi smaram bhavam tajante kalevanam tam tamivaiti konteya sarata bhavita. Sarata bhavita. Realization according to meditation, which is itself not so inspiring to hear at the present stage, but if we can develop our Krishna Smarnam, then this is, by that Krishna's mercy, he will reveal that Swarup according to your meditation, but that prema-infused meditation. So we look at Prabhupada's first paragraph here. It's so nice. I didn't exactly plan to read this, but maybe the whole thing. It's just so good. This is one of those gold purports that everyone should know. Who wants to read? Me. Okay. You can read the first paragraph, and then we'll tag team or pass the baton.
The statement here that the Lord manifests himself before the devotee in the form in which the devotee likes to worship him indicates that the Lord becomes subordinate to the desire of the devotee, so much so that he manifests his particular form as the devotee demands.
Yeah.
This demand of the devotee is satisfied by the Lord because he is pliable in terms of the transcendental loving service of the devotee. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 11th verse. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tataiva bhajamyaham.
We should note.
We should note, however, that the Lord is never the order supplier of the devotees. Here in this verse, it is particularly mentioned from Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita. This indicates the efficiency achieved through the execution of mature devotional service
Or prema.
Love of Godhead. This state of prema is achieved by the gradual process of development from faith to love. On faith, one associates with bona fide devotees. And by such association, one can become engaged in bona fide devotional service, which includes proper initiation and the execution of the primary devotional duties prescribed in the revealed scriptures. This is clearly indicated herein by the word Shutekshita. The Shutekshita path is to hear from bona fide devotees who are conversant with Vedic wisdom, free from mundane sentiment. By this bona fide hearing process, the neophyte devotee becomes cleansed of all material rubbish, and thus he becomes attached to one of the many transcendental forms of the Lord, as described in the Vedas.
What is that verse from Brahma Samhita? Premanjana charita bhakti velochanena santa sadaiva hridayanti. Yes, this one. Beautiful verse. So, Premanjana Charita, only for those whose eyes have been anointed with prema, then they can see the Lord both within and without in their hearts. So that's Krishna's Swarup. Krishna will show his Swarup to those who have prema. Any premi bhakti there? Of course you cannot say, because then if you have it, then you won't be inclined to say. And if you don't have it and you say, you're lying. And if you do have it and you say it, you don't look humble, so we won't believe you anyway. But you can ask the question within yourself, why I'm not seeing Krishna? Because that prema bhakti has to be there. What is that verse from Dharmadarashikam we're also singing? Iti driksva lila berananda kunde. No, further down. Mohushtumbitam bimba rakta dharame. Then? Manas yavya rasna malam lakshalabha. Is that the verse where he said, I just want this vision in my mind? Yeah, what else is there? Only this vision I want.
Well, two verses actually.
Two verses are like that, right? So that means this Satyavrat Muni must be having the prema by which he can have such vision. And if you don't have that prema, then Krishna Swarupa is not just coming in front of you. I heard, I don't know if this is true, maybe someone can confirm, but I heard that when Gorkishore Das Babaji would do japa, and thus he got a sporty means like a vision of the Lord, then he thought his japa was useless. You know, no sporty came and just, you know, like toss the beads, like what is this japa I'm doing? I'm like, man, that's a pretty high standard of good japa. So what does it mean to have good japa? Then you should see sporty of the Lord, then we'd be very discouraged. So Krishna Swarupa is only coming before these persons. So for this reason, Bhagavan Nam is considered more merciful. So even if you don't have the prema bhakti, it will come before you and allow you to chant itself and then become purified in such a way that you will manifest prema and you can see that Krishna Swarup. So there is no difference between the Swarup of the Lord and the name of the Lord. But if there is some difference, this is the difference. That the name of the Lord is more merciful than the Supreme Lord himself. And for this reason, this becomes a central pastime of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this pastime of Ajamil, where it is, we're hearing about this description of the holy name of the Lord. Nam Tattva. So now let's go look at 7 through 19. We're just going to read the verses, and if you all want to do like a little pass the baton around the microphone, everyone can read. There's quite a few verses there. And we'll try to look at as many as we can. Yeah. Whoever. And start off reading from verse 7 onward.
Ajamil has already atoned for all his sinful actions. Indeed, he has atoned not only for sins performed in one life, but for those performed in millions of lives. For in a helpless condition, he chanted the holy name of Narayana. Even though he did not chant purely, he chanted without offense, and therefore he is now pure and eligible for liberation.
The Vishnu Dutas continued. Even previously, while eating and at other times, this Ajamila would call his son, saying, My dear Narayan, please come near, please come here. Although calling the name of his son, he nevertheless uttered the 4 syllables Narayana. Simply by chanting the name of Narayana in this way, he sufficiently atoned for the sinful reactions of millions of lives.
The chanting of the holy name of Lord Vishnu is the best process of atonement for a thief of gold or other valuables, for a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, for one who kills a brahmana, or for one who indulges in sex with the wife of his guru or another superior. It is also the best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king or his father, for one who slaughters cows, and for all other sinful men. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection.
Probably shouldn't share that verse to the public.
I was just saying, can you read that last sentence again? Sorry. I
Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection. Now this is for the murderer of women and kings of the father, killer of brahmanas, all sorts of stuff that I said would probably be hard to digest when you look at it only conventionally. And where there's friction between mercy and justice starts to feel, you can feel the pressure come. This is an example. All right, verse 11.
By following the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or undergoing atonement, sinful men do not become as purified as by chanting once the holy name of Lord Hari. Although ritualistic atonement may free one from sinful reactions, it does not awaken devotional service. Unlike the chanting of the Lord's names, which reminds one of the Lord's fame, qualities, attributes, pastimes, and paraphernalia.
The ritualistic ceremonies of atonement recommended in the religious scriptures are insufficient to cleanse the heart absolutely, because after atonement, one's mind again runs toward material activities. Consequently, for one who wants liberation from the fruitive reactions of material activities, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, or glorification of the name, fame, and pastimes of the Lord, is recommended as the most perfect process of atonement, because such chanting eradicates the dirt from one's heart completely.
At the time of death, this Ajamala helplessly and very loudly chanted the holy name of the Lord, Narayana. That chanting alone has already freed him from the reactions of all sinful life. Therefore, O servants of Yamaraja, do not try to take him to your master for punishment in hellish conditions.
One who chants the holy name of the Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins, even if he chants indirectly to indicate something else, jokingly, for musical entertainment, or even neglectfully. This is accepted by all the learned scholars of the scriptures.
One chants the holy name of Hari and then dies because of an accidental misfortune, such as falling from the top of a house.
So specific.
Slipping and suffering broken bones while traveling on the road, being bitten by a serpent, being afflicted with pain and high fever, or being injured by a weapon, one is immediately absolved from having to enter hellish life, even though he is sinful.
Authorities who are learned scholars and sages have carefully ascertained that one should atone for the heaviest sins by undergoing a heavy process of atonement, and one should atone for lighter sins by undergoing lighter atonement. Chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, however, vanquishes all the effects of simple activities, regardless of whether heavy or light.
Although one may neutralize the reactions of sinful life through austerity, charity, vows, and other such methods, these pious activities cannot uproot the material desires in one's heart. However, if one serves the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, is immediately freed from all such contaminations.
As a fire burns dry grass to ashes, so the holy name of the Lord, whether chanted knowingly or unknowingly, burns to ashes without fail all the reactions of one's sinful activities.
If a person unaware of the effect of potency of a certain medicine takes that medicine, or is forced to take it, it will act even without his knowledge, because its potency does not depend on the patient's understanding. Similarly, even though one does not know the value of chanting the holy name of the Lord, if one chants knowingly or unknowingly, the chanting will be very effective. Shri Nam Prabhu Ki Jai. Okay, let's go back to 627. Let's look at some of these verses a little bit. But before I do so, what stood out for you in that description? Did anything specifically stood out, or in terms of what we've been discussing so far? So, and yeah, maybe Kostubi can kick it off. Or Doya has it? Okay, I didn't see Doya's hand. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was more of just a pondering or questioning in my mind that maybe we can get into, or maybe later. But because I read the verse that was talking about if one just chants jokingly or even unknowingly, etc. And then Birch Boomer was talking about even if one chants while falling off a house, etc. I was just kind of thinking about that in the verse of the CC as well that says that one can go on chanting for millions of lifetimes but not achieve the desired effect. So just kind of like reconciling those two things in my mind, because how this said was just if you just chant no matter what. And we have the situation of Narayan, like, okay, he was chanting in a sense, he wasn't calling to the Lord, but he was chanting very sincerely because he was at the end of his life. But then they were saying, no matter what, in any circumstance, if you just chant, you'll get this effect. And so I was just kind of, that thought, a verse, and I would just love to hear more discussion on that specifically, because it's...
That comes up in one of Prabhupada's purports.
Yeah, that's kind of where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
It seems.
Good comment.
You know, we're like unlimited hope and then unlimited despair.
Right. After millions of lives, you will not see. Yes.
So that relates to my observation too, or just more like what I was considering or thinking about.
Okay.
And you know, it seems like part of the nature how like Krishna consciousness is revealed to one, you know, like gradually is. You can hear something many, even for years or decades, and the meaning of it doesn't really connect.
Mm.
And then at some point, you understand it, and it seems like it was obvious all along.
Mm.
So I'm not saying I'm there with this, but I'm trying to get there with this. And as we were reading it, it seemed to me, because what you're saying is like, yeah, is it like easy or not? Is it like easy or is it impossible? And it seems to be, you know, the discussion here is we're talking about Krishna's mercy, and particularly as you've been highlighting so nicely, you know, that the name in particular is Krishna in a particularly merciful form. And it seems like there's a playbook here that the Yamadutas, who are relatively like knowledgeable about justice, they're like, we know the law book, and it seems to be a clear case of what's happening here. And they're responding a bit like you've been also from the beginning of your talk kind of saying like, well, how could you say that someone's done all these horrible things that you just forget it?
Mm.
And then it seems to be that if you just chant this name one time, that Krishna has this feeling of, and the word duty was used, right? Like, I have a duty to perform. So I'm trying to understand what does Krishna feel his duty is? And it seems that we're in this world trying to enjoy separately from Krishna, but the instant that we turn back, right? Like the moment that you say, I made a mistake. I actually want Krishna. Like at that moment, he's like, okay, immediately we're going to forget everything, right? Like we're just, and something like that, you know, like he's not considering, like just like if a parent would accept their child back, as soon as they say, you know what, I've made a big mistake and I just want to come home. Come home, you know, no hesitation whatsoever. I'm not going to consider whatever horrible things you've done. I don't care if the whole world thinks that you're horrible. I don't think you're horrible. I want you back. And then, but then there's an extension of mercy that like goes beyond, right? That even if you're not consciously turning back, if you're not consciously turning away, right? Like we can chant and consciously turn away. We can chant and say, I'm chanting because I still want to enjoy this world and I want to, you know, I'm chanting to relieve myself of suffering in this world, or I'm chanting to, seeing it as a ritualistic activity offered in the Vedas, to either neutralize or to find enjoyment through the holy name. Then that's an indication that I'm not turning back to you. or if I chant and at the same time I'm criticizing Krishna's devotees, no, that's a clear indication you're not turning back, and so on. So we have these 10 offenses. But even if it's kind of like you don't even get all that, and you just say it, you call out that name calling someone else, because you're not offending, then he's going to extend that mercy so far that he's like, well, hey, almost like there's a chance that this person was, he's not offending and call my name, I'm there. Like that. It is some kind of very extreme mercy, that's offered. And it seems to be that our problem is, like, going to what you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, it's just like, if we're not demonstrating Krishna that we don't want him, then he takes us, immediately he's there. And immediately he'll forget everything. And if we're chanting, even we're wearing the clothes, and we got the tilak, we got the beads, and all this, but through our lifestyle, or as we chant, we're in some way indicating we still don't want you. Then we can chant for lifetimes.
Well, these are very nice comments. It's interesting though, just with that last point, it wasn't that Ajamil's lifestyle was particularly demonstrating a desire to turn towards Krishna, but like you said, that unconscious chanting of the holy name seemed to make up for all that in some sense, because it wasn't a conscious turning away from
that. Like when I mentioned lifestyle, I meant lifestyle like criticizing devotees, or
so
not
the
following
offenses,
the guru, or
the offenses. So yeah, these two things are very much connected. The two comments that you both just brought up, very important. And Prabhupada does cover it in one of his purports. Okay, what else? We'll take a few more. What stood out to you in reading the passage? I saw a few more hands. I thought I did, maybe not. Anyone?
I was just thinking how a little while ago, and I think in your Facebook, you were making the point of why people don't want to accept that God is a person, because they can't possibly conceive of themselves being a person being so forgiving. And I'm thinking, is those one of those circumstances when you read that list of things that even one word in Krishna will show mercy. As a person, you think, there's no freaking way I could do that. So if I couldn't do that, how could God, a person, possibly be that? And so that one passenger said, don't let this out to the general public. It's like, if people heard that, it's like, there's no way that God could be a person, because there's no way a person would be that forgiving. So that just struck
or
out
that
to me.
callous. Even.
Or that callous.
One who's a murderer of women. I mean, can you imagine that coming out? But they said Hare Krishna, so now everything's forgiven. It could be a little bit.
But they still have to repeat, right?
Have to repeat?
Come back as a human.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe though.
That would make us feel a little bit better about it, I guess. Okay, at least there's some punishment is there. But maybe they don't have to come back. So this is the bewildering. That's a very nice point, actually. Okay, I'll take a couple more, or 2-3 more, and let's look at some of these verses. So nice.
Something that also came up for me, like a question that came up from looking at this, is like, we see that, at some moments in some devotees' lives, they are extremely sincere. Like they really want to, go back to God and like that. But they're doing everything. They're distributing books. They're doing deity worship. They're really applying themselves. But after some X amount of years, for whatever reasons like that, they sometimes fall away from devotional service.
Yes.
And you go, well, if from these comments, it seems like as soon as you chant, and I'm thinking, okay, sincerely. Well, if a person, at some point in like that, they must have been sincere, like one chanting of one name like that. Why didn't that burn out all those material desires that it is saying that it will burn to the root, to the point how is it still coming up if it's saying that it will burn to the root?
No.
So it's like, wow.
I'd be surprised if this question didn't come up. Prabhupada paraphrases on this verse 9:10 where it says Krishna's mind dwells in that person who chants his name, and he thus thinks that it is my duty to protect that person. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur offers a 14-page commentary on that verse. It's actually an extremely important commentary for understanding Nam Tattva. And Prabhupada paraphrases it at the end of the 6th canto. So he offers no commentary for verse 19 there, but he puts it at the end of the 6th canto. It's not very long, so it's not 14 pages, but he paraphrases a lot of the major points made in there. It's very much worth the study. I think after we finish the pastime, we would hope to double back to, we'll talk about this more, but double back to that commentary. It's extremely important. But this is the very first question that's brought up, that if holy name destroys sin, even the root of sin, which is ignorance, then how is it saying that Ajamil continued with a life of sin thereafter? And this is a very important question. We'll not cover it today, but definitely, definitely worth. It's a very important point.
Is it the purport of the very last verse?
It's the purport in verse 9:10. Prabhupada doesn't offer a commentary here, but he does later. So we won't be able to look at it now.
So he's proposing to wait till the very,
I'm not waiting.
Okay, we'll take one comment you had, and Radha Bhakti, did you also have something? No, okay.
So a lot of this conversation is between God and not a conversation. The context is sinner and God, and then there's another third party where you said the victims of the sinner's activities. Like a lot of times people do something bad and we never get punished in this life, so the only hope for the victims or their families or relatives is the law of karma will kick in and they'll get punished.
I'm also happy about that, right?
Yeah. In fact, I was surprised that in some US states, when there's capital punishment, the relatives of the victims are allowed to come and see them being, so that was very execution. And then so I was just thinking on the lines of how is it fair for them? How should they see when they read a verse like this? But my understanding was like it's again, they're seeing things in the context of this life.
Yeah, it's the tension. That's why I said these sort of understandings create that tension in the heart. We'll not cover so much this idea. What we've been trying to cover it, one aspect. This is obviously a very huge subject matter. But I often like to say that the material world is just to a fault. We often think that there's some injustice happening, especially when it's happening to us or someone we can empathize with. This seems so unfair, but actually the material world is fair to a fault. You have heard this saying before, where something is like I have a good quality, but to a fault. You've heard this before, right? Like they tell the truth to a fault. They're truthful to a fault, so the material world is fair to a fault. I mean, it's so fair and it's so precise in its delivering of justice that because we can't see the connection between the effect in the form of whatever we're experiencing and the cause that deserves this effect, then we say this is unfair. But actually it's being fair to a fault. I remember once having a conversation with a friend about this. I may have shared this before here, but it was after the Rath Yatra, and he was complaining about something for 20 minutes. We were washing pots together. And then he came and he was like, Jai, I was just thinking, it's just so unfair. Where is the justice? And I was watching pots. I said, no, Prabhu, you misunderstand. Justice is being served. And he stopped washing pots for a second. I was like, oops, maybe I shouldn't have said that. And he kind of just sat with it for like a minute. And he was like, yeah, that's our philosophy, So the misunderstanding is justice is being served. Of course, according to the type of experiences you're having, that can be a harder message to process internally or not. But just in terms of just looking at it in a detached way and what the ontology is, how Maya functions and so on, it's actually fair to a fault. So how does a person process that? That will take so many other elements in that regard. And I had hoped not to look at too many of those elements here because it's just a huge topic. It should be taken independently. But right now we wanted to discuss the mercy of the Holy Name because, and I'm bringing up this just to give a contrast of the inconceivable nature of the mercy. That contrast I'm trying to create is by bringing up the factor of the victim situation and how that really pulls at the heartstrings, perhaps more than hearing Krishna's mercy, as understanding or processing how Krishna could, Jagat Mare, they were doing very horrible things. Raping women, I think that was also mentioned. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he writes a commentary in Chaitanya Bhagavat that delineates all the sins that they performed. There's Mahapat and Atipat and Mahapat, Pataka, like sin, and then more sin, and then extreme sin, and then great sin. There's all these different categories, and then all these activities underneath each category, and they performed all of them. And so it's when you read the list, it's like some of the stuff on the list is kind of crazy, but some of it is just like it really pulls at the heartstring, and then all is liquidated by the mercy of the Lord. So we wanted to create that contrast to kind of underscore the inconceivable nature of Krishna's mercy, to give a sense of how, because as Julius brought up this nice point, we think as persons, not only persons, rather magnanimous and empathic and compassionate, that I would deliver justice in a proper way. Whereas where Krishna, it's not that he's not doing that also, he's doing it in his own way, maybe through the laws of karma and so on, but he's also delivering persons, even someone like Putana, to the position of the spiritual world. And with that contrast, it just makes, it gives a sense of that much more the inconceivable nature of Krishna's mercy, and particularly the mercy of the holy name. Thank you. So let's look at some of these verses real quick, and because I don't have so much time. And you wanted to say something? Okay, okay. Burning question.
This kind of pertains to what we've been talking to.
Okay, you can use the mic. Sometimes people hear online.
And the laws of karma. And so we all have crosses to bear and credits and debts. But I was just wondering if there's a way that maybe we could kind of, I think Prabhupada said, you remove the plug out of the wall and the fan starts to, it's the momentum slows down.
Yes.
Starts to dissipate. So my question is, maybe there's a way that even if we're inclined by destiny to be prone more towards materialism,
yes.
Maybe I was just wondering if we can kind of reduce the karmic debt we have to pay.
Yes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. That's liquidated.
Unless you're doing it to try to liquidate the
materialism that you want to indulge in.
The Padma Purana recommends that for one who's chanting offensively, the remedy is to keep on chanting.
Okay, so constantly chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And even if you're doing it to liquidate, that will go away sooner or later.
And so then you'd be more prone to maybe stray towards spiritualism as opposed to materialism.
Yes, of course.
I mean, just
if you're chanting to become freed from your sinful reactions so that you can enjoy this world, then that's one thing. But if you're chanting to become free from the sinful reactions so that you can serve Krishna, then that's another thing.
So many subtleties.
It's always just a question of which way you're turning.
Okay, let us take a few of these verses. Obviously, I'll not be able to get through all the passage, but I think the desired effect has been created to give a sense of the extent of the mercy of the holy name. So let's look here at some of these verses. This is verse number 7. So the Yamadutas are, and the word I used here in my notes is nonplussed. It means like they can't believe that Ajamil is going to be free from punishment. It's just like, what? And they said, but he hasn't done any atonement. Our commentators often, to explain the verses, they give us a conversation to help us get a feel for the verses and how the verses are developing. So they, in Sri Vishwanath's commentary, and Prabhupada also follows it in purport, he gives this feeling that the Yamadutas are just like, nonplussed means one of these faces when he said, he's free from charge. And you're like, just like completely kind of indignant, maybe even incredulous may be a good word. And so he has not performed any atonement. How can he be free? And so here the Vishnu Dudas are saying, Ayam hi krito nirvesho jamakoti ahasamapi. That he has undergone all types of atonement. Jamakoti ahasamapi, even though he's for sin in unlimited lifetimes, or 10 million lifetimes. It's probably translated as 10 million here, or millions of lifetimes. Jamakoti ahasamapi. Even for millions of lifetimes, he's atoned. We'll just speak of this lifetime. For millions, he's atoned. How is that possible? That's when the Yamadus make that face. I mean, this lifetime is already a stretch, and now you're going to bring up this Jamakoti. I'm already struggling with this lifetime. Talking about Jamakoti. Api. Even though so they really have one of those faces. And Yavyaja Hara Vivusho Nama Swasti Ayanam Hari. Because he is helplessly chanting the holy name of the Lord. And this Nam is Swasti Ayanam Hari. It is Swasti Ayanam is the name which gives auspiciousness, or it gives deliverance, to liberation. So Sri Vishwanath quotes a lot of verses in the purport. You can scroll down. I'm just gonna read some things here because of time. But they give us a sense of this Swasti Ayanam Hari, Nama Swasti Ayanam Hari. These verses are quoted. Simply by chanting one holy name of Hari, a sinful man can counteract the reactions to more sins than he is able to commit. One of these faces. If one chants the holy name of the Lord, even in a helpless condition or without desiring to do so, all the reactions of his sinful life depart, just as when a lion roars, all the small animals flee in fear. And this one particularly describes the Swasti Ayanam part. By one chanting the holy name of the Lord, which consists of 2 syllables, Ha-ri, one guarantees his path to liberation. So more than remove sin, it gives liberation. So there's the extra factor there. And this theme continues. So look at the next verse. Etenaiva hyagomo asya kritam sya aganishpritam yada narayana yeti jagada chatur akshanam. So this Ajamil is agono, or here Prabhupada says in the purport, and it means agavan, one who is replete with sin. Just like Krishna is called as Bhagavan, one who is replete with bhaga, or sometimes the soul is called as Shraddhavan, one who is filled with the Shraddha, or Gyanavan, one who is filled with Gyan. So Aghavan, one who is the possessor of sins, such as the conditioned soul, and Ajamil in this case. Kritam sya aganishkritam. He has performed complete atonement just by Yada Narayanayati, just by chanting the names of Hari, or Narayana. And here, this is interesting, Yada Narayana Aya Iti. So previously, when Ajamil first had his son, and the son was born, he called him Narayana at that time. From that time, complete atonement was actually accomplished. And every time after that, when he chanted the name of Narayana, he was developing bhakti actually. So it wasn't that at the time of death, atonement was accomplished. That had already been accomplished previously from the chanting of the first time he said Narayana, his son's name. Then he would say, Narayana, come here, come sit on my lap. Oh, you're so cute, Narayana. Like this, he would be speaking. And that time, he was actually developing bhakti more and more and more, by which he was able to remember the Lord's name at the time of death. The Vishnus will give this argument later. Jagada Chatur Aksharam. He chanted the Chatur Aksharam. The reality is often referred to as Akshara, the imperishable reality. And this is Chatur Aksharam, so the 4 imperishable syllables. Narayana. But even if it's 2 syllables, Hari, or even 1 syllable was mentioned in the I don't know what the 1 syllable would be. Do you have any? Om. Okay, that's kind of au, ma, ah. Oh yeah, ah. There's in Haridas Thakur is mentioned, if you read Chaitanya Bhagavat, that sometimes he would just make sounds. I always get, this is probably not what this sounded like, but I always get this image of him going, ah, and then he would give purport to all the sounds that he made, like profound explanation. He would explain all the sounds. I wonder if there's any room for him in ISKCON these days. It's just very strange. Jagada Chakra Aksharam. So here Prabhupada writes to this point that Doya and Kaustubha Prabhu brought up. Previously, when engaged in sinful activities to maintain his family, Ajamila chanted the name of Narayana without offenses. To chant the holy name of the Lord just to counteract one's sinful activities or to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name is offensive. Namno bala yasihi papa buddhi. But although Ajamila engaged in sinful activities, he never chanted the holy name of Narayana to counteract them. So there's all these subtleties here. He simply chanted the name Narayana to call his son. Therefore, his chanting was effective. Because of chanting the holy name of Narayana in this way, he had already vanquished the accumulated sinful reactions of many, many lives. In the beginning, he was pure in terms of the Satuguna, but although he later committed many sinful acts, he was offenseless because he did not chant the holy name of Narayana to counteract them. One who always chants the holy name of the Lord without offenses is always pure. As confirmed in this verse, Ajamila was already sinless, and because he chanted the name of Narayana, he remained sinless. It did not matter that he was calling his son. The name itself was effective. So to Doyo's point also specifically, he brought up the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bahu Janma Koti, this one. After 10 million lifetimes, you still will not get the result if you are committing offenses. But here we're not hearing about offenses, here we're hearing about namabhas, a different type. So namaparad is there, then there's namabhasa, and then there's shuddhanam. So here this past time we're hearing about namabhas, but actually the discussion of namabhasa is meant to glorify shuddhanam. This is called as the kaimutya nyaya. This means the logic of if this, what to speak of that. You know, so by chanting namabhas, look at the effect that it had. What to speak of if you chant it indicating the Lord with faith, with knowledge, then what will be the result? So much more. So the whole discussion here is namabhas, not namaparat. That's why it was effective. And the other point is that this discussion of namabhas is meant to glorify the pure chanting of the holy name. So the Bhagavatam is not glorifying namabhas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself also spends a lot of pain in his writings underscoring the need to give up namabhas, chanting. So this pastime is meant to glorify pure chanting of the holy name, to give encouragement that by such minimum connection with Krishna, swalpam api asya dharmasya tvayate marotobhaya. This verse can apply to this pastime also, right? By a little connection with Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hari, or even by a little connection with Krishna, then taryate maratobhayat, one can be free from the greatest fear. The fear of death, the fear of this material world. Prabhupada says the fear of going down to the animal species, which is not such a big fear for many people in the material world. They even may look forward to it, and becoming a tiger and all these things. Yes?
Yeah, we really consider this. I guess practically in any language in the world, there's namabhas. There's some way that Lord's holy name, like I know in Dutch language, for example, the word for window is raam. So, and then you wonder, does that mean that the whole population of Holland, or anyone who speaks that language, and it says like, open the window, is free from all sin? Is that the same as Narayan? Because he had some previous connection also with sadhus that we heard last week. There was some devotional connection. Is that the same? Like, can I say the complete population of Holland who say open the window once in their life is free completely from all sin?
Yes. Such is the irritating nature of Krishna conscious philosophy.
So then it's very auspicious to be born in Holland.
It also applies for everybody who speaks Spanish.
So
why?
Because
they have similar
is
branch. So Doya wants to say, dang, time is up. And now it's just starting to, everyone's really, just to Vasudev's point, Srila Prabhupada once, I have to find it must have been a room conversation or something, but he gave the example that if you go to the hospital and then you get some medicine, then you're free from disease. But then if you go back out and again then the disease is coming back. So similarly, by saying Rama, window, or Rama with the rolling R I can't do, branch, then yes, you're free from sin, but then right after you go and sin again. So again, contamination is coming.
Root.
Yes. Well, see, yeah, so, but this is the interesting thing about this. That, well, actually here, they're saying by Namabas, even the root can be destroyed, and Namabas can give Vaikuntha liberation even. Everything but prema can be had just by Namabas. That's why it's one of those, just like that doubt.
Well, my understanding is that it gives you the opportunity. Like, Ajamla got, by his chanting Namabasi, he got Sukriti, by which he got
Yes.
Sangha, which opened up the path to full pure.
Yeah, that one is a little bit more easy to digest. I think maybe we can check out this commentary, 14-page commentary. From what I've been hearing all these years and understanding is that ignorance was itself eradicated by that one Namabash chanting. It wasn't even that now from that opportunity was given. No, from that it was finished up. So that makes it more hard to, that's why this face is coming. Like, how to understand that. And that's why Sri Vishwanath spent such a long time giving that commentary, because he's going through all these sorts of questions that certainly will fill the mind if you hear these sorts of points.
All those people who are opening up the windows and all that, after they keep opening the windows, they should be cultivating bhakti, isn't it? According to what you said before.
So by that, and Sri Vishwanath also accounts for this in his commentary. He said it's like a fig tree. So here the extraordinary example is given. Ajamil's case is an extraordinary example. He said, but generally it is like a fig tree. So a fig tree takes a long time to grow and then produce the fruit. So generally by Namabas chanting, it will gradually come, the fruit will gradually develop. But in Ajamil's case, it was an extraordinary case because the holy name can also manifest itself in extraordinary ways. So that's how you reconcile some of these points there. So yes, by saying Rama, window, or branch in Spanish, then Vasudev's explanation is very nice. Then that gives them some nitya sukriti by which they can get sadhu sangha in a future life and make further progress. So this may be a general way that this happens. Ajamil's case is an extraordinary example of how this happens. Yeah, Doya, maybe we can end with you. That's the last comment.
Brief. There was two things. One is came up as when Vasudeva was mentioning the point was, I was thinking of the example of Valmiki Muni,
yes,
who Valmiki Muni led a very sinful life up
Yes.
until the point when he wrote the Ramayana. And Narada Muni's, at a certain point, preaching strategy was that there's nothing you can do, you just chant the name of death.
Right.
And death is Mara. So he's chanting Mara, 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 Mara. And through that repetition, it eventually turned to Mara to Ram, to Rama,
Yes.
Rama, Rama, Rama. And through that chanting, he just unknowingly was chanting the name of Ram. And that purified his heart. So I was just thinking, not that I can explain it either, but I was thinking of that example. So maybe some hope. But then also, earlier on, even as we were reading the descriptions, I was just thinking about and appreciating Srila Prabhupada, because his godbrother Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj was explaining, commenting on the success of Prabhupada to spread the Krishna conscious movement, that it was his faith in the holy name that gave him that potency. So I was just thinking that Prabhupada translating these verses, the sixth canto, wherever he is, his movement is in full swing. So he's experiencing the potency of this. That was what, when he was on the Jaladutta, he wrote Jai Radhamundra, that I don't have bhakti or Vedanta, but I have faith. And so I was relating that back to when you're saying hearing, that by hearing, in addition to getting knowledge, that hearing creates faith. And as we develop faith, at a certain point, we just kind of, without being able to explain, we just kind of accept these as truth. And by that accepting, by that genuine faith, I think the potency is revealed, as in the case of Srila Prabhupada.
Very nice comment.
Because appreciating Prabhupada and just kind of wanting to bring up that development of faith that creates the potency. So.
Thank you very much. So much more could be said. Unfortunately, time's up. Hari Om Tat Sat, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Nam Prabhu ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Rio.
Namamishvaram Sak Chidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namamishvaram Sak Darupam Lasat Kundalam Namamishvaram Sak Chidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Lasat Kundalam Yashoda Biyalukala Davamana Bolo Yashoda Biyalukala Yashoda Biyalukala Davamana Paramrishtamatyan Tato Drutya Gopya Paramrishtamatyan Tato Drutya Gopya Namamishvaram Sakchidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamana Rurantam muhur netram yugmam rejantam karamboja jugmena satanka netram Muhushvasakam patrire kankakanta Muhushvasakam patrire kankakanta Stita Graiva Damodararam Bhakti Bodha Namamishvaram Sakchidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamana Namamishvaram Sakchidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamana Iti Triksvalilabhir Ananda Kunde Swagosham Nimajanta Makyapayanta Iti Triksvalilabhir Ananda Kunde Swagosham Nimajanta Makyapayanta Tadiyashita Gyashur Bhakchati Tadvam Da Vadiyashita Geshur Bhaktir Shitadva Guna Prematastam Shata Vritti Vande Guna Prematastam Shata Vritti Vande Namamishvaram Sakchirananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamana Varam Deva Moksham Na Mokshavadim Va Nachanyam Prineham Varishada Iha Idam Deva Purnatango Balabala Idam Deva Purnatango Balabala Sadam me manasya virastam kimanya Sadam me manasya virastam kimanya Namamishvaram Sakchidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamana Namamishvaram Sakchidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamana Iram te mukam bojamatyanthanila Vritam kundala ishnigda raktascha gopya Iram te mukam bojamatyanthanila Vritam kuntala ishnigda raktascha gopya Muschumbitam bimbaraktadarame Muschumbitam bimbaraktadarame Manasya virashtam alam lakshalabhai Manasya virashtam alam lakshalabhai Namamishvaram Sakchirananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamana Namamishvaram Sakchidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamana Ram Sak Namo Deva Damodara Ananta Vishnu
Prasiddha Prabho Dukkha Jalabdi Magnam Namo Deva Damodar Ananta Vishnu Prasiddha Prabho Dukkha Jalabdi Magnam Kripa Drishti Vreshyati Dinam Bhatanu Kripa Drishti Vreshyati Dinam Bhatanu Griha Neshama Magnyam Edakshi Drishya Griha Neshama Magnyam Edakshi Drishya Namamishvaram Sakshiranandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namamishvaram Sakshiranandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Guveratmajam Bodha Mortyaiva Yadvat Tvayamuchitao Bhakti Bhajakritao Cha Guveratmajao Bodha Mortyaiva Yadvat Tvayamuchitao Bhakti Bhajakritao Cha Data Prema Bhaktim Svakam Me Prayacha Data Prema Bhaktim Svakam Me Prayacha Namokshe Graho Mesti Damodareha Namokshe Graho Mesti Damodareha Namamishvaram Sakshiranandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namamishvaram Sakshiranandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namaste Damne Spuradepti Damne Tvadiyodarayata Vishvasya Damne Namaste Damne Spuradepti Damne Tvadiyodarayata